Drew, talk a little bit about how you guys are coming back from, the last week's performance and things that you maybe have corrected or things that you're looking at, if you would.
Yeah, I think just getting back to our process, getting back to our traits and the way we prepare. I thought last week wasn't our best week of preparation, and we're kind of getting back to the basics this week in terms of how we've gone about preparing, the first 8 weeks of the season, and getting back to that.
What do you know about this rivalry? What things have you learned about Miami and Notre Dame? And after the game last week, did you get a chance to watch some of the Miami-Virginia Tech game?
Yeah, I watched their games. I was eating at Buffalo Wild Wings and got to watch some of their games. So that was good. A competitive group, and obviously a lot of history behind the game. I think what I know most about it is Coach Eilers used to kind of help us out here a little bit, Pat Eilers, and he played kind of in that historic game, and obviously was featured a little bit in the 30 for 30. So just conversations with him and Coach Light and those guys, that's really the extent of what I know.
Drew, when you talk about the process, what allowed the process to get a little sideways last week before the Wake game?
Well, I think when you just talk about greatness in general, consistency is the hardest thing in a week-in, week-out basis. And so that's what makes champions champions, though, and that's what we're striving to be. And so just getting back to what we've been doing and preaching a message of consistency, and week 9, week 10, it gets difficult to do that, especially when you've been going at this thing since January. And so refocusing, whether it's young guys, old guys, guys in between, and all kind of coming together in that cohesive message again.
How much does that drive, with what you weren't able to do last week, how much does that drive you to say, let's be better and really get after it and be the defense we know we can be this week?
Yeah, I think we're just disappointed because we knew we didn't go out and execute to the best of our abilities, and I think we felt that we let one go defensively, and so whenever you have a bad performance, you always come back with a chip on your shoulder, and I know a lot of guys after the game were ready to put the pads right back on and go back out there because we really felt like we let one go.
When could you see last week that there was just something different about the defense? Like it wasn't all together as it had been the last couple of weeks. Yeah, I don't know if I felt a lack of energy, but I definitely didn't feel kind of the spark, whether it was like, we'd get in a third down situation and then we'd come so close but wouldn't make the pass breakup or wouldn't get to the quarterback or, would let him escape and scramble for 5 or 6 yards to keep the drive going. And it felt like those plays hadn't been occurring the first 8 weeks of the season, and they were occurring that game. And so I think it was just that passion and that energy and that fire to get off the field. I think they were able to convert in too many scenarios. What did you see from the guys at practice yesterday that said, you'll be all right, everything's going to be okay defensively?
Well, those plays were getting made, and guys were really flying around and swarming at the football. I thought, our pursuit, our ability to finish plays at the point of contact, whether it was tackling the ball carrier, finishing at the quarterback, or finishing at the end of routes, was a lot better. Yeah.
Hey, Drew, right here in the middle. Just going to ask if you have seen Miami's turnover chain that they pass around on defense, and your thoughts when you see that.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. On defense, you're trying to generate turnovers, and I think that's a great idea for any team to do. We've even talked about doing that. We have a hammer, and some guys on the defense have it, and we kind of pass it around internally, but it's a cool idea, yeah. And
kind of building off of that, when you have two teams like yourselves who love to force turnovers, what does that do for a defense when, not saying that your guys' offense is going to turn it over a bunch of times, but when you head into a matchup to where turnovers can actually really be another big focal point of the game?
Yeah, listen, in big games like this, defense wins the game. So whoever plays better defense on Saturday is going to win the game. And we're preparing with that mindset. We have to go in, we have to take the ball over on the road, put our offense in favorable situations to score the football. We've got one of the best offenses in the country, and so they will be able to do that if we do turn the ball over. I think you saw that against Michigan State. When we gave them the ball back, I think they had a 100% touchdown conversion rate. And so the best defense is going to win on Saturday, and we've got to go in there with that mindset, and our defense has to go in with the mindset to dominate.
And sort of kind of going back to when you guys took on Michigan State, it was a big spotlight game on the road. They weren't ranked at the time, but obviously Miami coming in at 7. What does it do for you guys mental-wise to get ready for a game that is so focused on when you guys are playing on the road as compared to when you've had these games but have been here at home?
Yeah, I mean, I think what our coaches try to preach to us is this idea of a faceless opponent. I think everyone is aware of the situation with them being ranked in the top 10 and us as well, and game day going down there and all of that. But if you get wrapped up in that, like, none of that's going to win you the game. What's going to win you the game is execution. And if you focus on too many of those external things, you're not going to be able to execute. And so we have to focus on our game plan and focus on what's going to occur. They're a bunch of 18 to 22-year-old guys just like we are. And so we have to focus on the execution of our game plan in order to win.
Yeah, and with the human nature aspect, you mentioned 18 to 22 years old. It's hard to sort of not hear about the hype of something like this, but has it helped you guys? What makes it easier for you guys to sort of block out the noise? Is it having experience with things like this, or does it just take a little bit for you guys to get used to it?
Absolutely. I think it has to go with experience, and we've played in a lot of big games already this year. You know, the list goes on and on of games that we've played in this year and been able to quiet the noise. And so I think it's just that constant message internally of reminding one another, you know, if we want to be able to celebrate and see Coach Kelly dance in the locker room after games, we got to focus for the time leading up to the game and through the game on what we have to do to execute. And then after the game is when the fun occurs and you can, you know, enjoy the win. But in order to win on Saturday, we got to focus, be in the game plan, and keep our minds on that.
I asked Greer about this in terms of just Miami's field and their stadium, and they've been changing it out a lot this year. They've had some turf issues. Was wondering if you knew anything about that, and if you didn't, how do you sort of, as a player, prepare for maybe having a tough field condition to play with?
Yeah, we've seen on film a lot of guys slipping, and I think, you know, that obviously goes to some of the weather they've been having on the coast this year, and I think grass as well. And so it'll be different for us this week, obviously with our home field being turf, but all 22 guys on the field are going to be playing on the same turf, and so not really an advantage either way. We just got to prepare for it and be ready.
And lastly, for me, just the challenges that Miami's offense will present to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, obviously their quarterback has the ability to just make plays and get the ball to playmakers. I think you see that time and time again with guys making big plays, whether it's the catch in the fourth quarter against Georgia Tech to extend the drive on 4th and 10, whether it's, you know, their veteran in the slot, Barrios, making plays downfield, making plays in the run game. Their running backs are great, athletic tight ends, and so they present just a lot of different challenges and nuances that we'll have to be prepared for. Yeah.
Right here in the middle. You mentioned that you guys have a hammer that you kind of give around to defensive players. I'm just curious on what that kind of stands for you guys, how important it is, if at all, how excited guys get. Is it for big hits, I'm assuming, something like that?
Well, so originally it was for during the summer training, we would give it out to Beast of the Week, and it was from Coach Bayless and his staff. And I think it ended in Nick Coleman's hands, and so Nick Coleman had it. And we've just kind of been hanging around internally, and so it doesn't really symbolize anything, but we just think it's cool to have it as a defense.
It might not be as flashy as a chain. Is it decorated at all, or is it literally just a normal hammer?
It's just a gold hammer. Yeah.
Okay, so it's gold at least?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Drue, Coach Kelly talked about sort of the grind that you were under last week academically and how that may have affected you on Saturday. Did you feel that?
I mean, I think looking back, probably a lack of sleep was probably the biggest component, just having a ton of projects. You know, I wasn't able to get as much sleep as I typically like to, being 9 to 8 hours on a game week. And so I definitely think that played a part into it. But at the end of the day, we got to go down and execute. And I'm not up here to make an excuse for myself or anyone on the defense. We all play. We're all student athletes, and so we got to be able to handle the nuances of school and football.
What projects did you have? Is it like mechanical engineering type stuff?
Yeah, I'm in like 3 basically caps. So I graduate in December, so I'm in like 3 capstone projects, and they're all group projects. And so obviously my group's counting on me to get my deliverables done, but had a lot of deliverables due last week, and one of them we're doing basically a thermal management system for 3D printers. Another one, we're acting as like a venture capitalist and designing something for people who travel. And another one's a research project I'm doing for kids in developing countries to help. It's basically a solar powered system to help power computers and stuff in schools in developing countries. So a lot of different projects going on. They're all neat and interesting, but took a lot of time last week.
And I've been meaning to ask, if you're graduating in December, do you plan on coming back for a 5th year, or uncertain?
Yeah, I mean, those decisions will be made in December and January. I'm kind of just focusing on finishing up here and finishing this season, and so those decisions will be made at a later date.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Anything else for Drue? All right, thanks everybody.